what are business owners to do now to keep going forward inside a recession? We're in a recession.
Well, I like to see recession sort of like a filtering process, right? You look at these big companies, and they've been around for the last 100+ years. They've been through how many recessions? 2, 3, 4, even more. It's the good ones, and it really shows true entrepreneurship in these long times and stressful times as well. And it's basically filtering to see who can weather out the storm for a recession.
What do they need to do to weather the storm?
I come back to, I think you, Alistair, said in that first episode, is plan, right?
Yeah.
That was a good soundbite for sure. But I think in these times, for me, there's probably 3 people that our business customers need to be speaking with. 1, their accountant. 2, I think their banks, if they need any funding to get through. And 3, if they are in trouble, to have the comms with the IRD and be upfront with the IRD as well. So I think those 3 in particular are the people that they need to
especially with the IRD part.
with.
Not paying taxes as well really cripples a lot of businesses out there.
So that's good. That's kind of all on the planning side, right? So then you go to your accountant, and I mean, every accountant's going to give you a different thing, but my top 2 probably would be customer retention. So you need to work hard and keep your customers you already have. Stop going looking for the new ones. Just focus on the ones you have and work really hard to keep them or re-engage with them. And the second one is the people that are already working for you. Look after them. Staff retention, right? So you can go and talk about acquisition of new people, and like that just takes time out of your business. Same with new customers, right? Time out of your business. So those are my top 2 at the moment.
I totally agree. It's like keeping your house in order.
Yeah.
What you have now, just keeping that in order.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
I see a lot of people put their head in the sand and just, it's just going to go away.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
It's all about keeping that communication up. It really is. You can't put your head in the sand, as you say. You've got to be open and be vulnerable. And
well, as a business owner, you sort of have that responsibility as a leader, right? To lead the pack. You can't just say, "Oh, look, shit, that's a problem. I'm gonna put my head in the sand. Hope it goes away. Good luck, my team."
That's a good point. Like that's probably everything you say is gold. Sometimes. you said the other day. Actually, I really resonate with that one. The leaders need to step up because if you don't know where you're going, then your people don't know where you're going, and your business, like you just don't have any direction.
Yeah, I mean, these people have PAYE jobs just to feed the family, right?
Yeah.
And if you're being irresponsible with your leadership and not guiding them the right way in the recession, are you being a true leader? Are you living up to the standards?
Yeah, I think the other being vulnerable in leadership and all of that, just even for business owners, they can't forget about home life. You actually have to have a chat to your husband or your wife or your girlfriend or your partner. If you all live together, you got family and whatnot. You actually have to have a conversation at home and say, okay, we're in technical recession. What do you think that means? This is what I think it means. What do you think that means for us as a family? Are we gonna hold back on some stuff? Are we actually are there opportunities out there actually as for us as a family? Could we do something different?
You almost got to keep your house in order before you can help others.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really hard conversation to have at home too. So if I was going to do that, and one, obviously educate yourself, like actually both of you understand that what a recession is before you go and talk about it over dinner. But bring in the independence, like you said, like bring in your accountant, bring in the people that can help you navigate it and try not to have that conversation without that person because I don't want to sit at home and talk to my wife about a recession over dinner and there's no like independence. It doesn't, I think it's dangerous.
Yeah, but I think we touched on it on the last episode around the household budget as well. So, in a recession, people are trying to look at what they're spending their money on, all of that. So it comes back down to that household budget again, which becomes really important.
But they're hard conversations. I think that's the point, right? As being vulnerable, they're hard conversations to have. And so they're never going to be easy.
Well, when everything's all good, you don't really need to have the conversation. And I think people have fallen out of not having the conversation over the last 5 years. Everyone's just talking about COVID and how hard that was. Well, it's gone now.
Funny you say that though, because when it's good, no one has the conversation. That's when you should probably conversate more because it's good. And like I got clients now going, shit, interest rates are 7% and my mortgage is like it's coming off and it's going to cost me extra 40 grand. And I'm like, it's all good. Like you don't have to pay off your debt in the next 2 years. Like don't pay the interest. Like you'll come out the other side, the interest rates will be back down at 5%, but that's when you start to behave. Don't go buy a new car. Don't go upgrading your house because that's what you did last time when it was 3%. Everyone did it.
But that's what I mean.
Spent all their money, right?
Yeah, that's excellent advice coming from you, the accountant. You know,
Thanks, mate.
no, but that's what I mean. We said you need to talk to your accountant, and that's great advice to our customers about because people do freak out because it is in the press and it's in the media and all of that. But I suppose we're just a calming force, aren't we?
We can be, but we're also, like you said, we're glass half full, so we're naturally optimistic, right? And so we don't see problems where some people see problems because we have the solutions, apparently, not for everything. But we can see a lot of examples during a day, week, month of so many different businesses and different people and different problems. So I think there's a lot of people that are our customers, our clients, and in the market who are kind of first-time recessioners. They haven't been through it before. And the only one I have been through was right at the start of my career and couldn't even get an internship, right? And then to now, and it's like, what are people doing if they don't even know what happens in a recession?
Yeah, that's a really good point because, most of our customers are business owners, obviously, right? But the people that are in paid employment, once unemployment starts to kick in and there's talk of that coming as well, then that's really going to start to stress people out.
Yeah, and that is quite scary because they don't have control over their employment. Right, it's not like business owners. We can create a role or create another business, create another stream of revenue. It forces people to change.
Yeah.
And what about those that don't want to change? Yeah.
There's help out there, right? Like if you can't afford it, even small business, right? There's funding available from the government that will help subsidize the cost of having some independence, so you can have that dinner conversation and actually push your business forward. And we're talking about, like, I'm a growth person, right? So it's always about growth, but I'm not talking about like crazy growth, and sustainable growth right now is probably sensible. And don't make any crazy decisions. Like obviously there's deals out there, but if you're not experienced in the deals, don't be doing any deals,
Yeah, but talk about crazy growth, right? After a recession, you don't really hear about those people that say, hey, I'm going to 10x your business. It's always those consistent, organic, the stable entrepreneurs that really last through these times, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Those people that say, hey, I'm going to 10x your business in 2 years. Who's that? Don't remember the name anymore.
Yeah. There's some of those people getting found out, right? Those first timers are getting found out.
That's what I say. Recession sort of shows that are you a true entrepreneur or are you just lucky? Right.
Yeah.
The lucky ones will get filtered throughout the storm, and then it's the good ones that really shows in their leadership and strength as a business owner.
But just keep that communication up, really, with all of your, your accountant or your peers or your advisors that you're talking to, just keeping those comms up with all of those parties and, we can get through it.
Yeah, and comms and are really important. And the comment you made about luck, I always say that luck is just timing and preparation meeting, right? And we talk about planning and we're in a recession. If you communicate with your banker and your accountant, say, and you're just communicating, and then they tell you about a product, say, I don't know, revolving credit or a $50,000 overdraft, bank overdraft, and you never knew about that. Are you lucky that that person had that conversation? No, it was you preparing to have the conversation, and then the timing was just right that you spoke to that person and they maybe talked about a business overdraft that day and that just clicked, and then timing and preparation came together. Yeah. Now you're lucky?
Yeah, and that's kind of something I've been teaching and I've been telling clients from way back in the day. If you're setting up a new business, as soon as you can, get an overdraft. Like, don't use it. You just need to have it there for days like
as a safety net.
Yeah, like it's the same thing when you buy property investment, right? You buy a house, and I've made the mistake before, and that's why I'm probably saying this, is you don't have enough working capital. It's the same thing when you buy a property and interest rates go up and you can't afford it, and then you have to flog the house. But if in the business, same thing. If you like rising costs, you got wages going up, you need to just factor in some working capital, and it might be bank debt, but you can't now go and ask for the bank for an overdraft. They're going to go no.
Yeah.
But if you had it 3 years ago and you never touched it, then you already had it.
Yeah.
Like, so you just got to play
there's all
your
these
cards
first timers out there that haven't done anything for the last 5 years because everything's been rosy and it's all good. They don't know that things exist.
Yeah.
You should actually, as a business owner, have 5 bank accounts, $50,000 overdraft. You should have a credit card with a $20,000 limit. You should have all these things. You should have a trade finance facility.
Yes.
You don't have to use it, but at least get it on over the line.
I think the problem with, and I worry, and I don't tell, you don't say this to everyone, because if you give that to some people, they just don't know how to behave with money, and then they go and blow it all. And then you're having a different conversation.
Well, I see a lot of these habits stems in business stems from a personal life as well.
Yeah.
Same with your mortgages. You don't just have $0 in your bank account.
Mm.
You should have a life-saving emergency funds that's
Yes.
Yeah.
maybe can weather 6 months of
Yeah.
no income, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
So I don't know how people sleep at night without that.
Mm.
Like,
Oh, yeah, but people just need to create good habits. They're so used to doing that for their lives that they need to create those habits so that they're just doing it and it becomes second nature.
I think it's one life, right? We're here to preach one life. And whatever you do good in your personal life, you should be applying it to business. And whatever good stuff you do in your business, you should be applying it personally.
Amen.
And sharing it and communicating it and tell everybody about it.
yeah, definitely. Just share your knowledge, right? Like, there's no point in hoarding it. I remember someone told me that this. It was one of our employees. I was gonna be careful what I say now. It's like this big. It was just like this. It's not about an employee. It's like this big property secret, right? She goes to me, I don't know how to do property, blah blah. Like like when I used to work at so and so place, they made it look and so hard. They just hoarded all this information about investing in property, and I'm like, it's not that hard. Like, why do you think it's hard? And then she went on to say, so it's just like they've just created this thing at the top end of town in accounting world, and it's like you've got to be a certain person to buy property. I think it's rubbish. Like, you don't need to. You just need to follow simple steps and you can buy property.
Yeah.
I don't know. I lost my train of thought because I was worried about what I was about to say.
I think your point was that people think things like buying property or buying shares are for rich, smart people. And it's not. It's for everybody.
Actually,
everybody can do it.
It was the mindset of that person hoarding that information with these people wanting to be a sponge. And it's like, teach them. Like, why are you holding it? Like,
yeah, that rich man was once poor, right?
Yeah.
People forget that.
Yeah.
And how do they learn through all these things? And there's so much knowledge out there as well, and people to help you.
Yeah. But what other things can the businesses do that we sort of act for, or other businesses out there that we can assist with during a recession, do you think?
I think I want to touch on the positive side. So I've got clients who generally sort of 80% of my clients are well balanced, like doing well, right? Some of them, the boring businesses, as you call it, some of them in sexy businesses, but they're doing well. They've got good capital funding lines and all this sorts of stuff. They're doing everything right and always have done. There are opportunities for these people in this market. Those people should be thinking differently and going and looking at opportunities, because there's more millionaires made in a recession than any other time ever.
Now's the time.
Now's the time for those people who are
100%.
well equipped to go and evaluate, do some research, do some development, figure out what opportunities can we tack on right now to our current business, or what other business could we buy that could be a sister company to our business. What could we import? What could we export? Like things you've never done before, if you're well equipped.
What does well equipped mean?
Enough money, enough cash flow, right people, right brand, right
That's
marketing.
always the hardest
Ducks
part,
in a row.
right? Yeah. Say you want to buy a rental property right now, it's 35% deposit. $1 million house is $350K. Who has $350K lying around? Right?
But you might have 350K of equity in another property that
Correct.
maybe it's time for you to double down.
Yeah, like in a recession, right? All these good investments per se is just basically on a discount, right?
Wow.
If you ride through the
Major
storm, bad investment during a recession time was going to be a bloody good one in the next few years.
And the conversation, I just can't wait for the conversations in say 6 or 12 or 18, 24 months, whatever it is. And people go kick themselves and I should have done that deal. Should have listened to you. Should have planned better. It's going to happen. It always does.
I was having a coffee catch up with this mortgage broker yesterday. And he told me one of his clients has signed a deal today to buy a house in Flatbush. CV was 1.4 million, I think 1.5. Bought it for $800,000 because the bank basically did a foreclosure on the person.
Right. Yeah, there's opportunities out there.
Yeah, so that's a $400,000 saving, even though the interest rate is up at 2% or 3% higher. Even if you go to a specialist lender, who cares? It's 10%, right?
Yeah.
You're still, in 2 years' time, that rate's going to drop. You're still going to make money.
Oh, as I said to you the other day, you're making those gains on the purchase, right? If we're talking about
100%.
property right now, that's the massive gains.
The key to that, so there's the capital side, right? You get it's less capital and more debt. It's the cash flow. That it stops people from doing this. That's why I talk about the overdraft, right? If you had it and it will say, let's say the whole was 50 grand for the next 12 months, you could burn that 50.
Because you made a
cash
wise investment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like so in 2 years' time, when things come right, we should be hitting up all of our clients and go, everybody go get a bank overdraft and just have it sit there.
Yeah.
But that's where it's really important for people to understand the difference between income in wealth or assets, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's some people can get into dangerous territory because they don't understand the difference, and then they go and spend that money on daily operating stuff.
Yeah, no.
Like we
Yeah.
don't want that.
No.
That should be there. That when opportunities come now,
Yeah.
you could say take that 50 and go and deploy it into a revenue generating asset or a purchase.
But also investing in marketing. Josh will love this, but investing in marketing and innovation at this time, I think those two things are key during a recession.
Guess what everyone's doing though?
Turning off marketing.
Yeah, they're turning it
I
off.
don't-
Ridiculous.
I don't
know.
understand that.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I do actually. So you probably, I read an article in America, right? So if you got like this, you got big companies double downing on their marketing because the other companies are turning it off.
Yes.
They're getting the massive market share right now
Oh,
because
totally.
they're going hardcore,
Yeah.
picking up all of the
That's a good
customers,
strategy.
Like no brainer. Like people are
exactly.
stopping, so we go harder.
Yeah, and look, it does come back down to cash flow. It really does. But like, if you can afford to, even marketing doesn't need to cost a lot of money, right?
No.
So as long as you're doing some marketing during these times, the better times will come, and the fruits of your
Run along.
labour and putting your money into some of that marketing will
And just
come.
keeping yourself front of mind of your consumers, right?
Yeah.
So during a good time, they'll say, okay, that person I saw 2 years ago,
Yeah.
I'm going to buy their services or goods.
That's a good one. I like that. Yeah, that's good advice, mate.
Oh, thanks,
You
mate.
have to. I mean, it comes down to the leadership of the business. I think if the leader of the business or the leaders of the business are not, if they want to retract from spending because they're being told from the New Zealand Herald to retract their spending, then in my view, that's probably poor leadership. So how does someone be an effective leader when everyone else out there in the media is telling you, oh, like batten down the hatches?
Yeah, I think there's different types of spending. So like creating efficiencies within your businesses and doing things smarter also helps. You're going to save some money in that regard. But spending money, as I've said, in marketing to to give you a better chance in the future is the way to go for me.
Yeah, I think it goes back to planning, right? Or your plan thing, right? If you don't have a budget, you actually don't know. Like, so your personal budget and the business budget, and you just need to be able to at least have a position where you can play around in the spreadsheet and go, take that out. Oh shit, I'm going to pay that debt off, and then I'm going to have this cash available.
Oh, I agree.
Reinvest it into marketing. Or if we change this thing and this
Scenario testing.
Yeah.
You
just
really
need that.
scenario test.
And it depends how far you plan to, right? You can't just
Correct.
plan for 3 months.
No.
If you have a tunnel vision, it's like, shit, spending marketing now, it's not going to give me revenue in 3 months.
Yeah.
Let's not do it.
Yeah.
But if you think of 3 years, the forecast
Yeah.
out 3-5 years.
Yes.
That's
It
where
will
people
make sense.
get even good leaders sometimes get it wrong, and they'll do an annual budget and they'll go, oh, we'll take out that marketing.
Yeah.
But if you just had a 2-3 year budget and say your dollar spend took you twice as far this year, but your dollar spend is not going to take you that far next year, well, it makes more sense to spend it all now,
Mhm.
not next year. So you could spend it this year, not next year, theoretically. I mean,